Hi guys, in today's video you'll be finding out how I fitted an anti-theft device to my Audi RS3. Stay tuned. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Saving Salvage. As I've just said in today's video, we will be fitting a anti-theft device to my Audi RS3. I thought about doing this video for quite some time now. It's something I couldn't really find much about, and it's an idea that I thought, why wouldn't it work? So I've always seen aftermarket immobilizers, trackers that enables a car to deadlock itself essentially so it cannot be stolen, but all these systems cost upwards of £300–400. So I was just thinking, well, why can't I fit a switch or something that does the exact same job essentially, which is stopping the car from being stolen, for less than a £5? So hopefully that is what you'll see in today's video. If you're seeing this video, it means it's probably worked, unless there's been a massive cock up. So as always guys, if you do enjoy these videos, please do like and subscribe. And if you haven't already, please do head over to my Instagram, which is saving_salvage. I'll stick it up in the corner for you. And that's about it. Let's crack on with today's video and see if we can immobilize my Audi RS3. Well, I did just get a nice launch control of the car going up the drive, but it's so windy that the wind noise actually was louder than the RS3, so scrap that, pointless showing you. So the RS3 is in the workshop. We have to bring it in because it's so windy outside that you won't be able to hear me speak, you'll just hear wind noise. So the idea for today is this little switch here. It is a switch that come from Halfords. I think it was just under £4. And what I'm going to do, I shall show you now, is I want to fit this switch in a circuit, so an inline circuit, and basically I want to disable the car that would normally start the car. So I've already had a look. Behind here is obviously where your fuses are for this car, and there is a starter motor fuse. And I pulled that starter motor fuse out, and obviously the car ignition turns on, everything works as normal, but the car doesn't start. So like, perfect, that's exactly what I'd want. However, that is a 40 amp fuse, and obviously it's a 4-gauge wire from the starter motor to the battery, so it was a bit too many amps for my switch. And as you can see, I don't know if it's going to focus, but it says max 16 amp. So that was no good. I couldn't find any 40 amp fuses anywhere, and the ones I did find were too big and bulky. So the idea is I'm going to find a wire in a control module, an output wire from a control module that signals that will stop the car from starting. So my idea was fuel supply. I could do that. But then I don't want to disrupt the fuel supply because the car will still turn over, it just won't fire. And I don't really want the car turning over with no fuel being injected and not being able to fire. It's just, I don't want to do that to the engine, it's just unnecessary. So I'd rather just the car not start at all. There was another fuse for instrument cluster. You could pull the fuse for the instrument cluster out, which I could have fitted a fuse to. However, that just renders the instrument cluster useless, and it won't start, which is good. However, it resets the trip and the clock every time you pull it out. So again, that's no good. So what I had a thought of doing is there must be another wire to stop the car from starting. That is my best option, just the car not even turning over. That is the best option. So I've had a look, I'll put it up on the screen now. So this is a wiring diagram for this particular car. It as you can see, if I've highlighted it, it is the starter circuit. And as you can see, you've got a few control modules. You've got the I think it's 5, so I'm doing this as I'm walking around the workshop because you've got it up on screen. I think it's a J527, which is steering column electronics. And then you've got J519, which is central electrics, and J623, which is the engine control unit. So when you put your key in the ignition to start the car, as you turn the car to the start position, that will send a signal to J527, the steering wheel control electronics, which will then in turn send a signal to J519. J519, as you can see, sends a signal to the starter motor relay, which will then start the engine. And it also branches off and just lets the engine control unit know, by the way, we're starting the car. So the wire I want to intercept is the wire from J519, which goes to the starter motor control relay. If I intercept that wire there, the signal from J519 to activate that relay will never happen. Therefore, the car not starting. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've never done this before. I've never tried to fit an inline fuse or switch, sorry, to disable a car from starting. So this is the first time. I can't see why it wouldn't work, so that is why I'm going with it. This switch here, I should be able to fit it anywhere I want in the car. As long as I've got wires long enough, which I have got loads of wires, I'll be able to fit this anywhere. Obviously, I'm not going to disclose where I'm fitting this switch, because if someone does try and steal my car, I'd rather they not know where the switch is, if I'm honest, because that would be completely pointless. So the beauty about this switch is that the thieves won't be looking for it. They won't know it's there. They won't know what to expect. So if a thief has just broken into your house, stolen your keys, or he has just remotely gained access using a laptop and a signal into your car that has keyless, he gets in, turns the ignition, goes to start it, or pushes the press button to start, the car's not going to start, it's not going to turn over. He's going to think, why is it not working? And he's not going to know to look for a switch that we've just fitted. He's not going to look to know for anything really. He's only going to, what's obvious? Is there anything obvious I can see? No, right, quick, let's go. Don't have time to try and diagnose why this car I'm trying to steal is not starting. They will be out of there, gone. So, yes, it's a very simple design, it's a very simple concept, but that's why it will work so well, because it's so simple and it costs less than £5. The other thing is, well, you could say, well, I'm going to forget to turn it on. I'm going to go somewhere, I'm going to forget to flip the switch, and they'll be able to start it. But trust me, well, from my point of view anyway, if I'm concerned about my car being stolen, I will never forget to flip that switch, because every time I park up in an area, I always think as I'm leaving the car, is this susceptible to being stolen? And therefore, if I'm going to think that every time, I'm going to remember, switch, flick the switch, job done. And the good thing is, if you're leaving it somewhere where it's completely safe, you don't have to turn it on. You can just leave it switched on. So I can't think of any bad points to this, if I'm honest. So without further ado, it's enough waffling. It might not even work yet, this could be hilarious. But let's crack on and find J519 for this output. So my J519 on this car is under this dash panel here. It's quite simple to get to. It's just, we'll have to take this cover off. There's a screw under here, there's a screw under there, and there's a screw behind here. Once we've undone those three, the whole panel will just pop forward. We'll remove the switch for this, remove the light, and that whole panel will just disappear. And then J519, you might actually be able to see it under there somewhere. Probably not actually. J519 will be behind this panel, and then if you remember that diagram, it had on it the pin number and the connector it was. All we've got to do is find that wire, intercept it, fit another wire, and give it a go. So as you can see, I have removed the central control unit. It was just easily tucked up there, just folded it down. I removed all the plugs and I have it here in my hand. So this is the J519, the central electrics, and the wiring diagram, which I'll just ping up now, said it's T52/B. So that means it's a 52 pin connector block B. So as you can see, I have 3 52 pin connectors here, labelled nicely A, B and C. So this is the one we want. So that is our connector block we want, which was this white one here. So then what we need to do is go into it. We need to cut the cable tie, just remove the cowling for it, and then find terminal, I think, I'm doing this from memory now, I think it was 29, it could be different, but whatever the terminal says, I think it's 29, we need to find that terminal, check that the wire is the correct colour. As you can see there, it's showing it as green and white, and if it's the correct colour, that is the wire that we want, and then we can just snip it, and then fit our switch. Hopefully it's as simple as that. Right, so I've got my wiring diagram on my phone, got my torch, and I've just broken into this connector. Let me just get that wire out of the way. Just broken into this connector. So what you have is, this is the connector, and I just had to cut the cable tie on the top here to release the wires, and then there's also a couple of clips on this one. As you can see, the clips are here and here. You just had to move them to the side, and then the whole connector pulled out. I mean, this will be different for most connectors. Every connector will have a different tag on it, different lock on it, but as long as you find that lock, it's fairly simple to work out. If you can find what's holding it in, pull the connector out, and that will reveal the connector a bit more clearly. So the diagram said it was pin 29 on this connector, and that the yellow was grey and, sorry, that the wire was grey and yellow. So this connector actually splits into two when you pull it apart, so you can just slide it and it pulls into two, and the actual pins have a number on them. I don't know if it's going to focus, but at the bottom here it has the pin terminal number. So on this one, pin 29 is where my thumb is bouncing now. It's the first one, and as you can see, look, that is grey and yellow. So that confirms that that is the correct wire that we need. So all I've got to do now is, obviously I don't want to snip it where it is because then the connector won't fit back in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow this wire back up to about here, pull it out, cut it, and then fit a couple of wires in its place long enough to then fit my switch wherever I want. So I'll do that now. Right, as you can see, I've put the connector back on, so it's all ready to plug back in. And as you can see here, look, my two wires coming out. So this is the wire that's coming out of the ECU, and this is the wire that goes to the control starter motor control relay to activate it. So as you can see, we've intercepted that wire. We've got our two wires coming out here. For me, I've just gone green and yellow, didn't really matter. So then what we're going to do is fit a switch to the end of those two wires, and then it should all work. But obviously what I don't want to do at the minute is turn the ignition on with all these connectors unplugged, because it will just throw up loads of errors which I can't be bothered to deal with. So what we're now going to do is I'm just going to get another cable tie. The best thing about this as well is that I haven't even disturbed any of the wiring loom at all. I managed just to use a pick and just pick the wire out over the tape, so I haven't actually disturbed anything at all. So what I will do is I'll just tape the connectors to the loom as well, just so they're nice and flat and not wiggling around. And then I'll connect everything back up. You can see there, look, I've set my laid my relays out on the control module in order, so I know which order they go in. The good thing about the three 52 pin connectors is you can only put them in one slot. There are tabs on each connector, which means you can't put them in the wrong ones, so that doesn't matter as much. So now I'm going to connect everything back up, fit it all, and then fit our switch to the other ends of these wires, and then give it a go. Guys, I've just put everything back together underneath, and I've just reattached this panel quickly, put the bolts back in it, and as you can see, I've got my two wires for my switch hanging out the side here now. So don't be fooled by how long those wires are. You might be thinking, well, if they're only that long, he's going to be hiding it somewhere under here. No, I'm not going to hide it anywhere obvious at all. It could be anywhere in the car I'm going to put it. I will extend those wires and I will be putting it somewhere else, so ignore that. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is obviously we've got broken wires here, so effectively it's like the switch is switched off. So in theory now, if I try and start the car, it shouldn't start at all, and that would mean that we have at least tapped into the correct set of wires. So just going to put it here quickly. Got the brake. There we go, nothing, perfect. So we've at least got to the correct wire. So now we just have to hope that I fit the switch, which is, I've lost it. What have I done with it? Here it is. So there's a switch. As you can see, I need some blade connectors to fit to it, which I don't actually have. So what I'm going to do for the purpose of this is I'm just going to peel the wires back, and as you can see here, there's a couple of holes. I'm just going to loop them in and tie them up just so they're connected. Obviously, what I'll do is I will have to order some blade connectors, so I'll have to do a kind of temporary repair for the moment, but I've ordered them already. Obviously Amazon is going to take longer than I would like to deliver them at the moment, so we'll have to just do a bit of a temporary fix until I get the connectors. But right, let's peel those wires back and just connect them up. Right, there's our little bodge. Hopefully that works. So actually I don't know if this is off or on at the minute. We'll have to test it to start with. So this could be off, could be on. Right, so that's off because it's not starting. So now if I flick that switch, hopefully it will start. Oh, look at that. Spot on, first time, worked. Let's just turn the volume down. So there we go, that couldn't have gone any better at all if I tried. That was genuinely the first time I tried it. So that has worked perfectly. Obviously once the car's running, this switch becomes redundant anyway because it is literally just for when the car starts. So that switch is now redundant until you turn it off. So what I'm going to do now we know it works, I'm just going to tidy up this area, tidy up all the tools, and then do a bit of a better demonstration. Right, so I just had a little bit of a tidy up. Everything is back to normal now, apart from our side cover that we haven't fitted, which is literally just a little bit of trim. So everything's back together. So now I just want to show you this working. So I haven't actually switched it back off again. So let me just switch it back off. Just got to be delicate because obviously that just bodged together in a minute. So just to give an example, this gives off no warnings whatsoever. It's literally just the central control unit sending the signal to the starter motor relay to start the car. But because we've intercepted the wire and turned it off, turn the key, nothing. Car doesn't know any different. Car thinks it's going to crank, but nothing's happening at all. Doesn't affect, doesn't try and start, doesn't do anything, doesn't inject any fuel, doesn't mess around with anything, and you can just turn it back off and nothing's wrong. So now, ignition back on. If we switch the switch now, oh. Switch the switch, go to start it, perfect. And obviously toggling with that switch now will do nothing because that's just for the starter motor, and now it's started, it won't do anything anyway, so you can, that switch is now redundant basically. So that's an example of what we're doing, or what we've done, or what I've done. The only thing I've got to do now is obviously get two proper connectors and hide that switch properly, which I will do in the next few days. So there we go guys, simple as that, for under £5. So guys, that worked just as well as I had imagined and hoped it would. The reason behind I wanted to do this is because RS3s, S3s, any high performance car are really susceptible to being stolen to order, stolen, whatever, these days. And a friend of mine had an RS3 that was stolen from his house, broke in, and he woke up to it speeding off down the road. Then I just thought, well, I want one for mine, but I don't want to pay 400 quid for something that surely can be done a lot cheaper. Like, why is it so difficult to get a car not to start? See, my friend he's now got another RS3, and he's now had a ghost tracker immobiliser fitted to it, and every time you turn the ignition on, you've got to do a series of about 6 different buttons, wait for hazards to flash, and then the car will start. But there's no reason why having a switch hidden somewhere in the car that the thief will never know about is any more susceptible to being stolen. In fact, it's not, because you're sat in there. If you're just trying to steal a car, you're not going to know there's a switch to stop the car from starting. You're not going to be looking for that. So therefore, they'll never find it. They'll never know to look for it. So that's worked perfectly, and essentially I've saved 395 quid. So anyone that's taken note of my reg, by the way, and you're thinking of stealing my car, don't bother, because you'll never find the switch. This should work on any car. There's no reason why it shouldn't work on any car. Yes, the wiring might be slightly different, but the concept will be exactly the same. It's all just about intercepting a signal from the ECU to the starter motor relay. If you intercept that, put a switch in, it's exactly the same. It should work on any single car, whether it's push button start or not. It's all the same. Behind the scenes, the wiring, etc. So this should work on any car. And as I say, I bought this from Halfords. I think it was even less than 4 quid. I think it was £3.90 or something stupid like that. But that's all it's cost me. It hasn't cost me anything else. I will actually have to buy two spade connectors, which will be 10p or whatever. So that is it. It is just literally a little bit of just a wiring diagram is all you really need. I'm pretty sure you could probably Google most cars wiring diagram anyway, or worst case scenario, just go to your dealer and pay, don't know, £10 to get a wiring diagram of the starter system. So it is fairly straightforward, and even the wiring diagrams, it's not hard to really decipher and work out. I mean, it's as easy as the Audi one. It pretty much tells you, well, it does tell you everything you need to know anyway. So that was something a little bit different in today's video, guys, so I hope you did enjoy it. If you are new to the channel, guys, and you are interested in the RS3, it was a damaged vehicle which I bought from auction myself, so please click into the corner and watch the playlist of that being rebuilt. Right, as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy today's video, and I shall see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.